Hello, I'm Candler Bud. Let me do it again. Last time I promise.
Yes.
I'm Candler Bud.
And I'm Brian Chapman.
And this is Grab the Remote. Brian, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm choking. You usually come in with the laughter, and I'm thrown by that. And I also, you've named the show. I once thought it should just be Candler and Brian talk about movies during a pandemic. I think that could be an acronym. I'll find out what the acronym is. What is it? Oh, with their family's approval, we talk about movies. But I do like Grab the Remote. That's good. As long
as what?
As long as people don't start saying GTR. You know how everything has become abbreviated.
Oh, sure.
GTR.
Like tonight, we're talking about the Phantom Menace, and that's TPM.
Yeah. One thing about the Phantom Menace that I think this conversation will lack is the fact that we don't disagree on things, and sometimes that can be fun. We don't disagree on many of these issues of that come to the Phantom Menace. We didn't talk about the speeder bike chase in Return of the Jedi, but I feel like that the speed of the speeder bike chase on Endor sort of mirrored what the pod race became.
The Phantom Menace. I've told you this before, Brian. Of all the films, I can say this for the Phantom Menace. I was never more excited to see a film as I was to see the Phantom Menace. I've never been so excited for a movie.
And that was a lot of people's thoughts, I believe. The Star Wars community, community at large in 1999, and of course, leading up to that into the 98. As you may remember, back in those a million years ago, almost 21 years ago,
1999.
I had my small movie review show. During that time period, I had the show, and it's really pretty easy to get a show. You just write the movie companies and tell them you're doing a show, and they send you these. What then was electronic press kits. So I got all these press kits. I got to see movies. What the point I wanted to make was that I thought it was a perfect time for me to be, this rinky-dink hometown critic, and I thought the theater manager would just be thrilled that I wanted to showcase the theater and maybe do some promo shots. And truthfully, I just wanted to get in free and early, right?
Right.
But it could have been more opposite. If I was doing a movie about a fairly nice character like myself, trying my best to be nice to the theater guy, he hated me. Like I don't even know his name, but he totally hated me. He didn't let me do anything. I stood in line just like everybody else. And anyway, I hadn't really ever talked about that memory. But
did this young man know you before? Like, did you
no
girlfriend or anything?
No, this was not a young man either. I don't know. I mean, again, this is Hollywood casting of the angry, bitter man, not happy. I don't know. He was just not thrilled with anything. I mean, me just saying something about Star Wars, he just was like this. It didn't even register. He was like, "No, we're not going to be able to do that." And that was the voice, I think.
Can you do the rest of the podcast in that voice? That would be awesome. Hello there.
That's almost like feels like a King of the Hill character. And that also reminds me too that some of my favorite moments about the front row, that my little silly show a billion years ago. I remember reviewing Armageddon, and of course not liking it, and I can remember somebody said, "Hey man," like, "Hey man, you don't like Armageddon. You don't like Armageddon?" I'm like, "No, I don't, sir. I don't like."
You mean he stopped you on the street after an episode?
Right, yeah, a man on the street. Now it's more legendary than anything, but he really is like, you don't like Armageddon? No. I don't, sir. I apologize. I don't like anything about it. Okay, so sorry that we digress, but that's part of the start. That's the starting point for me of 99 and the Phantom Menace. So you were pumped. I was excited too. It looked promising.
Did you dress up?
Never. I've never dressed up. So a lot of people ask me that, but I'm not a dress up guy. Like I've done old Obi-Wan for like a Halloween, like years ago, but I would never. And when I see, and I hope I'm not humiliating you right now, but when I see the lines of people like all dressed up and doing lightsaber fights and all those things, it makes me laugh. I mean, that makes me really like chuckle. But so I'm it sounds like I'm too cool, but like I'm totally like I'm not gonna be sweating in like some Sith uh, sheet for 5 hours with a mask on. Okay, so there you have it.
I think we should end this episode right now because I
sorry.
did
I'll be
dress
back.
up. I dressed up for the Phantom Menace, and
We don't agree about something. I love it.
I know. So I show up. I'm dressed up. The girl at the time I'm dating is dressed up. My brother's there. He's dressed up. And then there's this little kid that's there. This is a midnight showing. There's this
Of course.
little kid there that's like 8 or 9, my age when I saw Return of the Jedi. And
Yeah.
he's kind of hazing us kind of passive aggressively, like two people behind us. He was like,
Sure.
losers, dorks,
Really?
and so I wonder now how old he might be now because now he's an adult. And the more I think about it, he looked exactly like Ryan Johnson. I think that was Ryan Johnson.
Really? The director
Yes.
of The Last Jedi and
The
Knives
director. Yes.
Really? If you think, okay, really? Well, I'm sure that he came all the way to Georgia to stand in line. I think I don't know that the age is right. I like the conspiracy theory. Where did you
Couldn't you have gone along with me on this?
No, I will. I would go on with you. This is why we don't have production meetings. We don't know what we're going to say.
Yes.
That was Ryan Johnson. What did you dress up as? What were you?
Well, I didn't have an entire Darth Vader outfit. So I had like the Darth Vader mask and a cape, but a tuxedo. So it was like Darth Vader in a tuxedo.
Of course. If anybody is going to, that's actually sounds like if I had to pick, if I had a multiple choice of what you went as, and that was one of them, I would pass that test. That sounds just like what Candler Bud would have. Darth Vader in a tuxedo. That's delightful.
It was delightful.
I never have and never will. And I've been to the celebrations and everybody's, grown men and women walking around, and I'm just not, that's not my thing. So we can agree to disagree. I have other things that of course, are probably, that you might disagree with, but there you have it. It's gotten awkward and I apologize. We should start over.
No,
so yeah, I don't. And I think that's wonderful to have that community. But if I was in the theater with a bunch of people with lightsabers, I would probably just puke. I mean, and I know that sounds terrible. I mean, that sounds like if I'm
even that night, the premiere of the Phantom Menace, there wasn't a part of you that would have enjoyed it.
I don't know. We can talk about lightsabers. Let me tell you something. They did it. They made a huge gaffe in making the trailer. They never should have let on that Darth Maul had a double-bladed lightsaber, because we already knew. We knew so much going in. That's probably
right.
Part of the. And I think that would have been more fun for everyone in the audience. People still went ape, but to me, the biggest problem with the Phantom Menace for me was, I've written this down, no surprises. I was not surprised by anything that made me go, oh, that's interesting. Nothing was a revelation. Not that I was looking for a new hope. I wasn't looking for anything other than entertain me, So, but I didn't have any surprises, and even the double-bladed lightsaber, which should have been pretty cool, was revealed in the trailer.
Gotcha. Well, Brian, I've put together about 10 questions that I sent to you about 5 minutes ago. So you've looked at it, but you haven't had probably a lot of time to think about it.
I glanced. And I love that this show, that's why this is Candler and Brian talk about movies during a pandemic, because we are not, this isn't a production, right? We are actually, I like that it's kind of shooting from the hip. So Absolutely. Thank you for sending those. And let's jump into them, and I can talk to you about all the things that because this is to me, we've kind of had a love fest up to this point, but yeah, this is a total, for me, I'm griping 21 years too late, right? Like who's listening now and cares, but at least we can get it out.
Well, in some ways the Phantom Menace has gotten a bad rap, and now we're finding out that it's about to turn 21 and it's not going to be able to go to any bars because all the bars are closed during the pandemic. So I feel a little bad for the Phantom Menace, but here we are with question 1. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Question one. Who should have been the protagonist, the main protagonist? Because I think we can all agree it was kind of lack of
Any
focus there. All right.
anybody.
No, but I want to give you three
Okay.
choices. You have to
Okay.
pick
Thank you.
one. Ben
Perfect.
Kenobi, Anakin, or Padme.
Padme. Well,
Really?
yeah. So certainly that is the biggest gripe ever for me is that no one is a main character. You do not have someone you're following. You cannot tell me that it's Qui-Gon Jinn and tell me four things about Qui-Gon Jinn besides the fact that he disagrees with the council. Like there's nothing about Qui-Gon Jinn that you know other than he is Liam Neeson and he's a good actor. Everything
Agreed.
else is who cares. Obi-Wan is Ewan McGregor is flying high because of train spotting, and everybody always says the same thing. I mean, here it is. Oh, Ewan McGregor was good, right? Wasn't he so good as young Obi-Wan? Didn't he do so well? He stayed on the big silver ship for the most of the movie, like half of the movie. I mean, he's great. Ewan's always good. I actually liked him in the
He
season of
didn't,
Fargo.
like Liam, they didn't drop the ball for the material they were given. Is that fair to say?
Certainly, but I think there's an assumption that we're just going to care about these characters. And Pat, let's talk. I mean, listen, spoiler alert. I hate even saying that; it's so lame. But the fact that no one feels, I'm going all the way to Revenge of the Sith for a second. I'm going straight to the Revenge of the Sith. No one feels sad that Padme is dead. That funeral didn't make me feel anything. It made no one feel anything because her story arc didn't mean a thing to anybody to start with. And Natalie Portman's phenomenal and she's great in most things when you have a director who's really pulling things out of her. But I think if she could have been our go-to throughout the entire, I mean, we need that arc. It could have been Obi-Wan for Pete's sake. Anybody who I want to follow along, but you have Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon dies. You have tiny Ant-Man.
And he's a character you've never heard of.
Sure, let's find out about him. I'm interested in who Qui-Gon is, so tell me about him. You have him die, and then the focus shifts, but it's never on young Anakin. It's never on Jake Lloyd ever. We see him and like, oh, we know who that's going to be, and because of that, it's almost like it's not taken as seriously.
Sure.
But we really did need somebody to follow. And certainly we talk a little about the hero's journey, but I understand about narrative shifts. One of the biggest narrative shifts ever is in the movie, Psycho, Hitchcock, 1960. That's the best. The audience had the rug pulled out from under them. 30 something minutes in, the main character is gone, and you're now you're following who you find out is the murderer. Spoiler alert!
I got to watch that movie again. That's been a long time.
Yeah, so those are the things. Like, if they're going to give me a narrative shift, at least shift it to someone because I don't know who it is. So yeah, I'm totally. That was my first thing. Why do I care about anybody other than this is a Star Wars movie? Perfect.
What should have been Anakin's age in The Phantom Menace, and when should he have turned to the dark side in the trilogy? Which film? Which act of that film?
So this is interesting. I did I did really skim. So right now what we're doing is we're taking an entire 3 movies and we're going to turn them upside down and shake it out. That's a good question. If we have Padme or Obi-Wan as the main character, then I would say that second film he turns and he's already showing signs in episode 1 so that we have plenty of time for Darth Vader before he has to wear his life-saving suit. Like, to me, that's what happened in Revenge of the Sith. At the very end, we rush everything into this 30-minute time frame. I wish that he would have reversed engineered it. Maybe that could have been helpful. We all know what needs to happen. We understand that baby Luke needs to go here and baby Leia needs to go here. Can't they take it backwards instead? It seemed like they were just waiting for the shot of Obi-Wan to pick up the blue lightsaber, right? Anakin, like, we get that shot, and then what else happens? Because and again, I know I'm jumping to Revenge of the Sith. So, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on it?
So you're thinking Obi-Wan versus Anakin in the second act of episode 2?
No, I would say that it still happens in 3, but Vader is just running amok. Okay, so not in his samurai
So he's a
outfit
Dark
yet.
Lord. Maybe he's even still called Anakin, but he's a Dark
Right.
Lord. And then,
Maybe.
gotcha.
And again, we have the luxury of being armchair quarterbacks here.
Of course, this is fun.
It's not easy to write a screenplay, and
Of
again,
course,
Lucas has done a lot of wonderful things. I think it's just, it is fun to talk about. If anything, I would say too, I mean, guys talked about no surprises. You can get to your questions, but the Emperor, right? So Palpatine, who happens to live on Naboo, as well as Jar Jar and Padme Amidala. I'm so interested in him. That's the one thing we didn't need. We didn't need 17 graphic novels and a book and a visual dictionary to explain any of these movies. They're having to do that with The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi and all these things where we have to explain all these things that really are just plot holes.
I've heard someone say this: you never want the audience to be ahead of the lead characters for too long. We all knew that Palpatine and Sidious were the same person.
Yeah, no surprises.
Yeah, that should have been apparent early in episode 1, as far as I'm concerned.
It's always fun when you're wrong, like when you come into something and again, I just felt like the two things that were boring were that Palpatine was Sidious, and we already knew that.
Yeah.
Anybody, not even you don't have to be a Star Wars fan. You have to be a dork, and you still know that. And the second thing is the Amidala handmaiden piece.
Oh, so horrible! Right.
I groaned so hard with that because, like, let's everybody have a big aha moment.
Sure.
Like you were talking about being ahead of the screenplay or being ahead of the characters. We were all ahead of them. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, which is the Phantom Menace, which took a lot of chances. We can talk about Jar Jar, like the computer generated character. That's a big chance to take that actually opened the door for everything CGI, Gollum and what they've done with, I can name so many things. The Hulk is a good example of a CGI character that really works. So, and again, we haven't talked about it, but Jar Jar, of course, is the biggest scapegoat of the Phantom Menace.
That's one of my questions. Okay. One of my questions was, what are ways that could have made Jar Jar work? And what are your thoughts on the fact that Michael Jackson was considered for the role?
Interesting. No, that's a time capsule, right? Like that would have been.
Yeah. Now in '98, this was after things have come out, which probably might have had something to do with him not getting the role. Like maybe. The first time he got in the news for that thing was in '93, I believe, or '94. So that was already out. But I think if that wasn't in play, who knows? Maybe he would have.
That would have been weird. I mean, we all obviously know that what a performer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about things. I mean, obviously
The Wiz.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course. Captain EO, the Francis Ford Coppola
sure.
Disney ride.
Sure.
He could have done it and it would have been, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So Ahmad Best, and I'd say for him, I wish him the best, because any one of us, somebody says, hey, you want to be in the Star Wars movies coming out?
We're doing it. Yeah.
Right. And then you don't really question what Lucas has or what the
course
has or what the script is. You just trust it because of what has come before it. We haven't there's a little fan conspiracy about Jar Jar actually being a Sith. Lucas changed the scripts because people did not like Jar Jar.
Oh, sure. You could tell.
He was in less, and people were, they were relieved. He came out in Attack of the Clones. He was in his muumuu, and he spoke to Obi-Wan for a second. Obi.
And Revenge, how many lines? You see him in the background. How many lines? Does he even have a line? I don't even know if he had a line in Revenge of the Sith. You see him.
I'll tell you who's good. If we're talking about good, I like Captain Panaka.
Well, yes, the guy that was always negative. Looks pretty bad. Your Highness, this is a battle I do not think we can win.
He's But he's inexplicably gone after that. Like Captain
Yeah,
Typho comes in, the guy
yeah.
with the eye patch.
Panaka was much better, but everything Panaka said was negative.
He was, yeah, he was a negative Nelly, but he
Yeah.
just was looking out for the queen and all the interest of Naboo.
Yeah, one of my questions was, tell me three things you enjoyed about the Phantom Menace. I enjoyed Panaka. I'm telling you one thing that hit it out of the ballpark. John Williams. I loved the score for the Phantom Menace. I was listening to it earlier today. It's fantastic.
So Duel of the Fates, of course.
Duel of the Fates, yeah.
And that was going to be Colin Trevorrow's the title of what now is the Rise of Skywalker.
Duel of the Fates, yeah.
Duel of the Fates. So I think Attack of the Clones has a good soundtrack as well. Attack of the Clones. Panaka. There's 10 seconds of Obi-Wan fighting Darth Maul, which is the best. I like that. It's when he's waiting behind the force field.
Yeah.
And then there's just that really nice choreography. It's the best lightsaber part that's probably ever been, in my personal opinion. What else? Oh, this is ridiculous, but I'll tell you a good special effect for 99 is Qui-Gon trying to get into the door with the Nemoidians behind it, and he turns it into like molten.
Yeah, that was cool.
Lava. That's a good special effect. Yeah. It's not like, oh, that makes the movie any good. I like these special effect. Some people love the pod race. They probably like it because of the video game that came along with it. Everybody's like, oh, the pod race video game. Didn't like the pod race. The pod race makes me like, when the human, not the human, it's like the alien Pop-Tart like gets out right away. I'm taken out of the movie with all the CGI characters, but his like Ben Quadranero, I think his name is, he can't get his pod to start.
Yes.
I'm done with the pod race by that point.
I tried to watch some of the Phantom Menace today, and I started dozing off, and my wife commented I started dozing off during the pod race. I was doing this number. Yeah.
See, again, old folks stuff. We're just old folks.
Yeah.
The funny line that his mom, Annie's mom, Pernilla August is the actress, and when he wins, she says, "Oh, Annie, you have brought hope to those who have none." Whatever. And I'm thinking, no, he didn't. Actually, a lot of people lost a lot of money. I mean, and no one bet. Everybody bet on Sebulba. So where's hope anywhere?
Tell me some characters from the original trilogy that you wished would have been in part one. Okay. And I'm just going to name off a bunch of them. Okay. Admiral Piet, Tarkin, Akbar, Han Solo, Chewie, Beru, Uncle Owen, the planet Alderaan. Any of those, if you could name one or two, God, they really should have been in there.
I wished, I'm sorry, maybe Alderaan, but I don't care. See, I don't
think Alderaan would have made it better later when it blows up in episode 4.
Yes, right. I like the planet with no weapons, right? Like you can see it just a little bit in Revenge of the Sith, right? There's that little
right.
Bail brings the baby.
But if Naboo had been Alderaan,
yeah, that's great. That's a pretty good idea. I like that. Maybe Alderaan, but I really don't need to see anybody else. I hated seeing Chewbacca in Revenge of the Sith.
I did too.
So I'll talk about that at length in about 10 seconds. So all that stuff to me is fan service. By all means, give me new characters. Let's let Anakin and Amidala and Obi-Wan be interesting to watch. The dynamic should have been there, and it never was. The dynamic between Obi-Wan and Amidala there was never a point where, I mean, when do they have their first actual conversation? Maybe in Attack of the Clones, when they're going to watch her in her ivory tower. While I'm on this, so Chewbacca in Revenge of the Sith never needed to happen. Stupid fan service. Not only that, Yoda knows Chewbacca. That is understood. Chewbacca knows that Yoda is a Jedi. So what Lucas did there was destroy the scene in A New Hope on the Death Star where Obi-Wan talks to Luke about things, the Force will be with you always, and then leaves. Chewie does that whole where he puts his hands on his whatever. And then Han says, well, you said it, Chewie. Where did you dig up that old fossil? Blah, blah, blah. Agreed. Chewie would have known and understood what the Force was. For them to be so interconnected that Chewbacca has to be with Yoda in Revenge of the Sith is such a Like somebody has to tell him like that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. I don't need to see Chewbacca. He doesn't even look like Chewbacca. It doesn't matter to me. That's why I don't care about Solo when we get to that. I don't care about any of it.
No,
Sorry. Okay, so we can now go back to, again, I knew this would be a griper.
I think Ben and at least Uncle Owen, I think should have been in it more. I think
Owen Lars.
Owen Lars, yes,
Right. Klieg Lars.
Maybe not that actor, but
sure. Well, they got like people who kind of had looked the part. They were fine, but
yeah.
I think what'll happen is if Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series, ever comes around, there's going to be, they'll find the tension between those characters, because obviously there was that tension in A New Hope when speaking about Ben Kenobi. So yeah, they'll find it. That just like Favreau's found things in The Mandalorian that needed to be addressed.
This is why I think it would have been fun to see some of those characters, not Solo, not Chewie, but some of those other ones. I think there was an opportunity for the prequels to add another layer to the original trilogy. So you watch the original trilogy with more knowledge. Now you just watch the original trilogy, and if you think about the prequels, you just get confused. But that's kind of where I was going with that question.
So who is your one person?
If I had to pick only one, I guess it would be Owen Lars, but a different actor, better written. It would have been fun to have Tarkin, maybe Tarkin. What does your gut tell you would have been a better film? The Phantom Menace is released in 1986 under Team Lucas, or The Phantom Menace is released in 2015 under Team Disney?
86.
I do too.
86 Lucas, totally.
Absolutely. Around the time when the prequels were coming out, there was a lot of fan theories that there was going to be a love triangle with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. Do you think that could have worked? Would that have helped, hurt? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, I love the what ifs, right? The old Elseworld. So what does that look like exactly? Because we all understand the idea that like the Luke Leia Han thing never was a thing. Not really.
Right.
It was a thing for maybe this long in A New Hope, but not really. So if there is actually something, that means that there is betrayal going on. And that just makes any character kind of a little more slimy maybe. So if it's a triangle, what does that, I mean, does that mean that Obi-Wan and Amidala are in love? Like, because Anakin seems to be the only one who is betraying the Jedi oath or whatever. So I think that's just another thing to throw in there because they wanted so badly for something interesting to happen.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a grasping at straws rabbit hole, maybe.
Yeah. Or maybe Anakin thought something was happening that wasn't, which was part of what took him to the dark side, maybe. Jealousy.
Certainly.
Brian, yes. Even though you're less than 2 years older than me, you're a much wiser. It's like you're 10 years wiser than I am.
That's ridiculous.
When I saw The Phantom Menace, I thought, oh, this is good. This is good.
Okay.
I kept defending it, and I saw it 7 times at the theaters. You saw it. You immediately walked out. Didn't like it.
Didn't like it.
Now, but there's one thing that I hated the minute I heard it, the first time I saw The Phantom Menace, and that is when Yoda said about the rule of 2, that there could only be 2 Sith at a time.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I totally hate that. That to me, that just hamstrings everything.
Well,
and we're getting close to maybe the end of our Phantom Menace part 1 episode, part 12 of a 19-part series on Star Wars. That's going to have everybody riveted. I was going to bring this out too. Like, there's like, look, see, yummy.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, do it so we can do it for a thumbnail.
No, wait a minute. No, now listen, let me tell you something. I'm not putting Jar Jar Binks up for a thumbnail because no one's understand what it is, and it's just a dork with a Jar Jar. Now, hold that thought.
You're very aggressive this episode, by the way. I just thought I'd point that out. All right. What were you going to say?
I would never buy a Jar Jar mug. My sweet mom of course, though, it's like something Star Wars. I bought you this mug. Thank you. I got this Star Wars mug. Thank you, Mom. I love you. And then I'm not going to get rid of it. And now I think it's funny. And that's another thing about the toys. People were talking about some midnight lineup. The people lining up to get Phantom Menace toys, right? Like their little Jar Jars.
Yes.
So yeah, sorry for being aggressive.
It's okay.
But I'm also not a prop master, but I thought I'd bring it out. I thought I was going to talk a little bit. Maybe next episode we'll talk a little bit more about it, and I'll bring the mug out.
Gotcha.
To me, Darth Vader, now we understand it as Darth as a title. I think that was just something that he thought of. I don't think Darth was a title when he made. All this stuff, and that's the thing. Anybody who said, "Oh, he'd already written the originals," like he didn't write the prequels before.
Right.
Hope. Like all that was just backstories on napkins, scribbles on napkins.
Sure.
So, and even like to me, even the Jedi robes, like I think that's just Obi-Wan wearing his desert garb, and it just turned into robes. I could be wrong about that. So there's a few things that they really took on, and to me, it wasn't very, very well thought out, and that's one of them. I'll never like the rule of two.
Yeah, I hated it. I can't say I hated it and then end the show. Is there something else we can end on a more positive note?
I knew this was going to be a griper, though. This is the gripe fest. It's just going to have to end like that because, like, what do we? We're really doing a big number on the Phantom Menace. I mean, we're going to go through Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith too. I guess we could maybe consolidate those. But I think we've done some. I think we've been nice to the Phantom Menace in some places.
Yeah.
Here and there.
Here and there.
If anything, Palpatine's the most interesting character we know the least about.
Yeah.
That's to me and I don't want to read a book about Darth Plagueis. I actually want to know what made Palpatine a Sith and how the Jedi did not find him with Force powers as a young boy. I mean, to me, that's just the obvious. I've had some time to think about it, but those are the things that make it it's kind of a whiff. There's a few whiffs in there that you feel like, oh man, there's some opportunities to mine there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brian, this has been fun.
I believe you. I'm always having fun. Like I said, what is it? It's Candler and Brian talk about movies during the pandemic. I feel like this would be a conversation on the telephone. So if anybody would ever want, like that's what I love about it, right? Just talking about Star Wars, except during a crisis, and Zoom is our technology.
Absolutely. Our next episode, we're going to get into Attack of the Clones, which, by the way, is my least favorite title of all the Star Wars films, and then we'll get into more. We've got
clones.
Send in the clones. We've got special guests coming up in future episodes. We have Brother Wesley, who is you're going to love him. He's hilarious, and things are about to get a little wacky.
Yeah, we're going to start doing more lists, right? So Star Wars is kind of go by the wayside. We'll do some listings of different types of genres, and that'll be a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it.
Excellent. Me too. Well, you're the best. I hope you have a great one.
You're the best around. No one's around down.
Oh yeah.